Come one, come all to Cosmere Talk, episode 4. I want to go ahead and address right out the gate that yes, I have previously mentioned that Cosmere Talk is not exactly getting views up to the standards that I am really finding on my channel. It's not even cracking 1,000, and it's honestly being outpaced by even my lowest watched book reviews. And this doesn't mean I'm going to shut it down altogether. It just means it'll probably become a more sporadic thing. If you'd love to help it, go ahead and share it. If I see a spike, of course, I'll start showing it some love. And don't get me wrong, I do love Cosmere. I love Cosmere Talk. That community apparently is not that existent and strong on my channel. And if it's, just keeping it between me and you guys, I'm trying to grow this to the point where it can become, a bigger part of my life, something I do at least part-time for work and help ease up my professional life a little bit, because right now boy am I swinging on all fronts. So just for that reason, it might have to take a back seat at a sooner rather than later point, and you'll probably see episodes coming out less often, but that just means the ones that do will be more special, and I'll put more TLC into them. Of course, you don't get as many replies as stuff like Wheel of Time Talks, but they're still definitely there, and I will go through the replies for my questions that I post to you guys, and I will always have a new question, and we'll keep this conversation going, because I really dig it. So basically last week, go ahead and straight on into it, and we have pretty much had to adopt a policy of Cosmere Talk of just not worrying about spoilers. So if you want to keep it spoiler free, you got to get out here for Cosmere, because there's just too restricting to even have that be a real thing. So I asked you guys last week, what is your favorite Cosmere magic system? And with no restraint on spoilers, we're going to go into Netta Ilgart's reply, which is, I'm pretty sure that my favorite Cosmere magic system is Allomancy, which I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, pretty much going to be the most popular response here, and one I agree with. Unlike a great deal of others, it was created very accessibly to our society, and if it existed, would be an amazing boon to everyone who could use it. Just imagine hurtling through the air, propelled by a coin, or heightening your senses to thee. And then you're cut off, and there's no read more button, which I'm really sorry to say. I have no idea what happened here. There's almost, there's a read more button, and YouTube's not giving me it. Oh, here we go. I had to expand out the window all the way. That helped. Where you can literally drop a pin in the middle of a concert. That would be an amazing video, by the way. So I'm gonna agree with you on there, except for the fact that the implications it would have for society. For this whole video, I'm gonna treat it like a bit of a debate to help myself kind of scratch that itch. So I'm gonna try to point out why these magic systems wouldn't work. Again, keep in mind I'm basically doing this as a joke. Don't take anything I'm saying too seriously. It's just me exercising an old debate muscle, and I think it's gonna be some good content. The reason I think this is bad is because there'd be some immediate divides in society, man. There'd be people who can and people who can't. And then there'd be people who can a lot. The people like Vin, who would basically be kings in the modern world. Instant celebrities, pretty much. And there's already enough divide. And I just see this being another way that we could basically have people who look down on others, something our society currently struggles with a lot. Plus, you'd have individuals who essentially have the power to massacre hundreds if they go unchecked. So you'd have to have government regulations like crazy, police forces extra armed. They'd be utilized in the military. You'd see war come to a whole nother level. Honestly, I'm just not seeing it as a good thing, And I'm not thinking that I want this to be a thing in our world. Would you want to be in the world where that jerk who was kind of mean to you in high school might have also had allomancy? I don't think so. And statistically, you wouldn't have it? Because that's the thing. If everyone in the comment section's like, well, I'd have it. Statistically, no, bro. I don't know. And if there's power in society, who abuses it? Bad people. So I just think it'd be another thing for bad people to abuse. Boom! Done with that one. Moving on. I'm going to just be Buzz McKillington this entire episode. From Allura, also great comment. Thank you very much, Nita. I appreciate it. And you're honestly probably right. I'd love that shit. From Allura Balagron. Warbreaker, because it would be... Warbreaker, because it would be useful in this world too. Useful, two separate words. I think all of these would be pretty useful, but Warbreaker Yeah, you have a good argument there. That'd probably be the most useful. From Cheese It. Great name. I'm really jealous you have that YouTube username. That's great. My favorite magic system is Ferrochemy. Yeah, Ferrochemy's dope. I really love the idea of memories being connected to magic. I love the thought of stored memories and powers that can be discovered and used, which was introduced in Era 2. Ooh, okay. How am I going to come against this one? All right, so you store memories and ideas and things like that. How can I come back and say this is a bad thing? Well, I mean, even you can't really store lies effectively because okay, there's other information. Let me give me a minute here. Give me a second. Okay, I got this. So I'm gonna have to come from like an authoritarian approach that's kind of horrific, but let's go in this. Certain ideas need to die. Cheese It. I'm telling Cheez-Its that ideas need to die. All right, coming in strong. Certain ideas need to die, and here's why. There's some things like, okay, the lies and the life that people have lived who have lived through misery. Let's say they record their memories and they're rediscovered. That can rebreed the hatred they once felt. There are certain things that our society is better off if they are just forgotten. And we have ways now to record the important stuff, and you couldn't really censor memories effectively through the government, and we can censor the things through the government. Oh my god, this is so against what I actually believe. Oh my god. We can censor things in the government effectively enough, and we don't want the unfiltered truth to the public. I'm a monster. Anyway, thank you, Cheese It. I enjoyed that. From Ryan Ratchford. Ryan! It's good to hear from you again, buddy. I haven't read Stormlight yet, but out of all the other Cosmere books, I'd have to go with Allomancy. All right, I need to come with a new argument against Allomancy. The way the characters in the world are weaved with the magic and how we slowly learn more key aspects of metals and the other two systems parallel with the plot reveals is very well done. That is true. Oh, Brandon's execution of using magic to propel plot is amazing, and it's something that could easily feel forced, but it almost never does. Plus, it's neat to see how the magic changes with the advancements of technology. I can't wait to see how Brandon uses Allomancy in the sci-fi trilogy. Dude, me too. I'm so hyped for that. But now for me to come and be a negative Nancy. Buzz McKillington. Okay, so your biggest thing here is you think it would be a boon for the progression of humanity, saying how you like how it's woven in with technology. What I will come back and say is that it's going to end up being a crutch instead of a boon. What if this is taken away? What if we become so dependent on this magic system, it becomes so intrinsic to how all of our technology works, and then let's say it's bred out of our society, or the genes that make it possible go away? Well, then what do you have? You have a bunch of technology that cannot be utilized by the average public, and therefore it has now become a hurt instead of a help. That's the best I can do with that one. These are not the best counter arguments, but I'm trying my best here with on the fly debating. So far, my favorite magic system is the chroma magic involving breathing. The way all the magic ultimately involves different methods of investiture is fascinating. Ooh, easy reply. You are creating an atmosphere that would basically encourage, if not make, a black market a necessity, and black markets do nothing but enhance all kinds of things like human suffering. Just look at like how when we try to regulate drugs, you just incorporate and involve and create an underground drug black market. And then there's going to be costs, things are going to be expensive. These breaths are going to essentially be hoarded. That's almost inevitable as well. It's going to basically be a new, unregulated, basically with actual value to it, money system. There could be investments and things like that in it, and it could just be a whole tragic thing, and your name is DeddyGuys001. I think you need to come back with a 002 idea, because that was actually probably the worst response I had yet. But I'm enjoying this. It probably sounds horrible on your end. Let me know if this was a bad idea in the comments down below, but I'm having fun with it. Jake Lafrance, good comment by the way, Diddy Guys. Jake Lafrance, my favorite magic system is probably from Stormlight. Someone finally picking Stormlight, because we still don't know everything there is to know about it. That's true, it's a good mystery, which creates a level of mystery and mysticism surrounding it. Unlike Allomancy, which is pretty much fully explained to the point where, for me, it stops being magic and starts becoming more of a science. Disagree with you there, but okay. This might be an unpopular opinion. That's just how I feel. Yay, man, that's totally allowed. That's absolutely allowed. Now, Okay, your main point here coming in is that you think Stormlight is cool because we don't really know. And so I'm going to take that same argument and try to apply it to our world and say it would probably be a bad thing. So having a magic system that's not fully understood in society would be incredibly dangerous because it can encourage people to experiment and not experiment like there is with science where we have 1 + 1 = 2. This is magic. Magic doesn't have those limitations. You can very accidentally do something on a nuclear scale without being entirely sure what caused it. There's no direct paths. Now, if it was Allomancy, see, I'm going to counter your other point as well, that wouldn't be a problem because Allomancy, as you said, is basically a science. I'm countering myself, but I'm doing it for the debate, so pretend I didn't say that. And that would actually be a lot safer because it is much more of a 1 + 1 = 2, but with this softer magic system that is available in Stormlight Archive, you are dealing with something dangerous and something that could lead people to make some horrific mistakes, mass casualties, plagues, fires, apocalyptic scenario. Do you really want that, Jake? Maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe you do. And if that's the case, you win the debate. The Silver Moon 5. I think Rosharan, but that might be because of the scope of the Stormlight is so huge. So it feels like it's the one that allows for the most badassness, but I also really like the color idea from Warbreaker. I think it'd be very interesting to learn more about them when we get Nightblood. Yeah, that's a great one, and there's nothing really there for me to counter in terms of a debate, so I need to go ahead and skip over this one. So I think you go ahead and win by default. That's how it's gonna go. I like how I'm deciding a winner here when it's me arguing with something that someone can't defend, and there's no other judge but me. This is like the most petty sounding thing on the planet, but it's just all for kicks. From John Mayer once again, not gonna make a comment on your name. I would pick light weaving, all right, because of all the cool illusions you can create. Oh, I'm gonna have an easy counter for this one. Also, I really like how Hoyd uses it to tell stories from different people on Roshar. Boom. Light weaving. Do you know what criminals could do with light weaving? You put on someone else's face, you go rob a bank, boom, that person's in jail, you're off scot-free. That is a horrible thing to have. Take it to the next level, you murder. You take it to the next level, you could run for president with a fake face on, and no one can stop you. You could just be this thing. You can create entire scenarios. You could go to the freeway and just drop a wall on people and make everyone just swerve to avoid this thing that's not actually there, mass casualties. Basically, the easiest way for me to counter a lot of these is saying that putting that much power in the hands of individuals is extraordinarily dangerous, which I don't think anyone really disagree with, because look at the IQ of the average person, and that's not that low, but then you have to remember that there's a lot of people below that, and people with low IQs are just as likely to... Actually, IQ is not a really great measurement of intelligence. That's actually true, so I want to walk it back there. Think of how intelligent the average person is. Remember that they're pretty smart, but there's a whole lot of people underneath them, and some people down there might end up with these magics, and those people may not be the most responsible. Actually, no, that's a really bad way for me to approach this. Because there are very responsible people who aren't super intelligent. That's not okay. So I'm going to approach it a different way. I'm going to approach it through just the recklessness of individuals and how that recklessness seems to be enhanced and amplified through the availability of power. Now, in the way we see in our society, that power typically comes through money, or that power comes through positions in society. But imagine how much worse it would be if you introduce something that's uncheckable, unprovable, and doesn't leave evidence like light weaving. You could do it in a crowded place. No one would know it was you. That's danger right there, man. That's danger, John. That's danger. All right. From Trent Kessinger. Okay, my favorite Cosmere magic system is the Stormlight Archive because I find it super interesting, especially. But I could have a bias because Kaladin Stormblessed is my favorite character because I await to Kaladin, but maybe I find the magic system fun. I think you might have a typo in there. You're not really promoting the magic system, so I think I have to skip this one as well. I didn't give you guys the prompt that this is going to be a debate. This is just how I'm approaching it because there's a lot of repeat answers, and I thought it'd be a cool way for me to try to dig this in this way. But go ahead. Great comment, Trent. Thank you so much for it. I appreciate you. From Jed Tenevast. This is a hard question because of all the magic systems Brandon has made are so great. That's true. There's no debate to be had there. Brandon's brilliant when it comes to running magic systems. With this question, I think it's with this question, I think it really just comes down to personal preference because of the practical perspective. I think they are all equal in their own right. Man, how peaceful making of you to say. Maybe I need to debate that aspect of this. Though I do think Cell on an Aeon's system is an exception, because I'm pretty sure it was Brandon's first magic system. It was pretty laid back magic system. All you need is knowledge of how to write the Aeon's Ferakimi is probably all you need is a good, oh my gosh, screwed that up. All you need, going back to the beginning of that sentence, because dyslexia is a pain. All you need is knowledge of how to write the Aeon, and you're good, which is a limiter in its own right, I suppose, but it's a pretty small one. But to answer the question, I'd go with Surges of Roshar. Ferakimi is probably a close second, but these Surges are very interesting, and we have so much more to learn about them since we haven't seen all the orders and what they can do. It's also interesting because there is no need to inherit it through bloodlines. It's achieved through bonding Spren and speaking Oaths. I'm very interested to find out all the different Oaths and Order of the Radiance, blah, yep. And since I want to know which I would be depending on the Oaths they take, based upon the hints of their personalities and surges, I think I'd be a Willspren, love of adventure, novelty, or oddity. Definitely sounds like me. So I'm gonna go for the attack here, that all of Brandon's magic systems are equal. And I think the easiest point for me to come at would be yes, Brandon has some magic systems that are not fully well fleshed out. There's certainly ones that are not as well written, like what's going on in Elantris, because it's just earlier on in his career with smaller scope. And I'm not saying they're worse in quality, I'm just saying their ambition wasn't as high, their execution not as grand, because he was still kind of working his basics. And that's not a slight to Brandon, but to say those magic systems are equal to what he has achieved in his prime, or maybe he's not even at his prime yet, maybe that's yet to come, I'm willing to admit that, would be foolish. And you didn't acknowledge some of those, like the magic systems in some of his older novels. So that'll be the attack I'd come back with there. And that's weak on my part, because this was all around a really great comment, and I appreciate you, Jed. And now we have one from Husilian Omar Ergin. I think I butchered your name, but I'm doing the best I can here. Ferakimi, because it would work really good in our world. Studying and memorizing a bunch of stuff for exams, you don't have to. Could lift something, now you couldn't lift something, now you can. You are sick, now you're not. It's too cold outside, no problem. It's too hot outside, no problem again. It's so great, I would almost be ashamed to use it for my own good. I got the easiest comeback for you. Let me build suspense for a second. Can you imagine a world where all obstacles are easy to overcome? You don't have to try that hard. It's just every day you achieve. There's no payoff because there's no work. And if there's no work, that means there's no internal development or growth, and that is not a good thing. We as people, you don't enjoy ice cream if all you ever eat is ice cream. You need to have the struggle to enjoy the end result. And I think this would seriously inhibit humanity's ability to fully grow and be the people we need to be to develop. I mean, it's already proven that kids who grow up with just everything handed to them have lower senses of morality. They struggle more with finding happiness and enjoying the smaller things. And I'm not encouraging poverty. Obviously, there's extremes to this on both ends that are not as good, but people psychologically who are in the middle to middle higher class have the most fulfilling lives, report after report and study after study finds, because they still struggle. Sometimes they still have to work for the payoff. They're not necessarily afraid for their lives or afraid of the roof over their head, but they still have that, 1, 2 to get to 3. And introducing Ferakimi would massively hinder that for a lot of people. And let me echo Shane Dawson here, and you'd be conditioning a segment of the population to essentially not develop empathy as well. I really hate how that guy throws around the label sociopath. He has no idea what he's talking about. And he took him obviously like a whole episode of Backlash to acknowledge that sociopathy is on a spectrum, and it was because of the backlash he backtracked so much. If you look into the rhetoric of what he's doing and how he's presenting it and framing it, it's pretty messed up what he's doing. And you can make I'm not trying to defend Jake or Logan Paul here, and I don't know why we got on this tangent. It just really bothered me because I was interested to see how he'd approach it, because I'm very big into rhetoric, and suddenly, in like how you present information, it's literally what I studied in college, and I'm sad every day I don't actually pursue it as a career. But I went in to see, okay, what's this guy doing, and how is he presenting it? And he is literally just almost like soap opera levels of editing to make things look as dark and bad as possible. And he's even admitted that. And he says, like, well, it wouldn't be interesting if I didn't do it. Yes, it would. You know how interesting it is to talk about things like sociopathy and present the information well and accurately? It's really cool to think, okay, the statistic 1 in 25 people is a sociopath is complete BS. But even if it was that, that's 1 in 25 people are on a spectrum. And most people on that spectrum, it's just slight little bits. Anyway, back to the topic. Sorry about that, guys. I'm peeved by that whole thing. I watched the first two. I'm not going to watch after that. I was more or less just curious. It's like when someone's saying there's a car crash outside. Got to go look at the car crash. From The Pocket Boy. Is it cheating to say my favorite is how the magic system as a whole works? The idea of having spiritual DNA that can manifest in different forms, just like ordinary DNA traits. Mistborn Eras 2 seems to be stumbling into a way to rewrite their spiritual DNA in a way that's analogous to our modern day CRISPR technology. Dude, CRISPR technology is amazing. It's awesome to see how they relate to each other. I can't even really take shots at that because it's so true and it's so cool. Yeah, man, you win that one. I'm not even going to try. That's awesome. And you're right. It's so cool. It's so fucking cool. Between the books and me, great username. Surge binding is by far my favorite system in the Cosmere. I mean, it comes with a free best friend. I think in storytelling, it would be a brilliant move on Brandon's part. It means that nearly none of the main characters are ever actually alone, so you get to know them better through the new interesting chances of dialogue between them and their spren. Trying to understand them. Give me a second. Okay. Yes, you have this companion, and they're great. And you're looking at it through Kaladin's eyes, but look at what Shallan has to go through, my man. This thing is literally getting involved in her sex life. And it'll learn, it'll get better, but it's essentially like when it first happens, having a kid dropped in your lap, depending on the spren. And I don't know if that's the best thing. It could be very uncomfortable, and not everyone wants or could handle that level of attention and companionship all the time. I'm personally a very solitary person when I need to be. I'd say like 30% of the time I want to be around people and socializing. Outside of that, I want to be working alone and focused. So the idea of having this thing, and we know their personalities don't always mash up and work great, so this could be rough, and I think not for everybody, but in reality, you're right, it's totally awesome, and I kind of want to get where you're at. Like, I would kill to have my own Syl, you're right. But that would be my best counter-argument there. Ipa, my man, how you doing? I hope you're doing great, because you are one of the most frequent contributors to the channel, and I want you to know how much I appreciate that. I would personally want to be a ferrochemist. I work in shifts, so ability to store wakefulness would be awesome, not to mention how you could store your health in gold and become sick if you need a day off. Probably the coolest metal would be steel. However, I'm in a car, not driving or otherwise not moving. I could store speed, and then I could become super fast for a short time if needed. I think you went ahead and like pointed out some of the flaws here. Like, workers would abuse this system, and they'd take 6 days, and they really would be sick. So, well, maybe you could flip it, actually. Let me take the counter-argument here to another extreme. Could you imagine how employers would be like, well, you need to store a certain amount of non-sick days. You need to make yourself sick so that I know during this time you won't be. Because, like, think of game development companies. They have these, like, sprints people have to go through to make sure the game gets out on time. So they'd be making their employees get sick during their downtimes just so that later on they'd be good for those sprints. And that would be a horrible system. If I got an email from my boss trying to control my life like that, you better bet your tushy, I don't know why I phrased it like that, your boy here would be mad. Jake Lowry. How's it coming, Jake? Daniel Greene. This might sound like heresy amongst Sanderson fans, but most of his magic systems, the kind of cool, the kind of cool, don't matter too much to me. I like that they all seem to have some sort of relevance to their particular world's history, but the powers that the magic system grant do not say much about the characters who are fortunate enough to have them. That being said, I love the concept of Stormlight. It's just a power that someone is born with, is tapped into as a character builds a deeper relationship with various principles of virtue. The fact that this virtue comes from a broken god says a lot. As we read the Stormlight archives, we see that the different factions of the Radiants are becoming more divided, much like the gender concept of Eneliism being spirited. The Radiants are going their own way. For example, the Skybreakers. The magic system on Roshar actively feeds into the storyline. I really felt the weight of responsibility put on Dalinar becoming a bondsmith. All these different virtues need pulled back together and are focused, or they end up destroying themselves. I'm confused by your comment. You debated yourself here. You started by saying it's not that key and you're not that interested in them, and you turn around and talk about some of the greatest aspects of them and how cool they are. So I'm going to let this be a self-debate. Great comment. Loved it. Yeah, that was awesome. But you almost had a little debate there amongst yourself. I'm going to go ahead and leave that, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. Farrakimli. Endlessly useful applications, although I really love them all. Yeah, well, I think you didn't do anything specific there, so you just insert my previous arguments, and we'll go ahead and go with that as the best I can do. Moving on down here, we have Emilia, or Emlya, Emilia. There we go, not Amelia. My favorite is Farrakimli because I think it's the greatest potential for abuse. We got a super villain in the making, and it seems like they're aware of it. I could take a year off sitting in my basement, blind, deaf, and dumb, and come out of it as a superhero. Conversely, there are always the possibility of new metals and alloys that could add even more outrageous abilities. I just like that you said potential abuse, and then you're like, I'm gonna be a superhero. It sounds like you're going down a path here. Remind me not to mess with you if you end up with that ability. Now we have George East. I think Alchemy, Farrakimli, and especially Hemurgy. Finally, someone brings it up as the most fascinating to me. The Steel Inquisitors, and how their power works and is acquired blew my mind. Although I also found the magic system birds from the 6th of the Dusk to be really unique, and I love to see Sanderson expand on it. Also, Kelsier over Ven, and Secret Histories over Alloy of Law over all other Mistborn books. Fight me. Wow, you and I have opposite tastes, but you know what? I respect you, dog. Yeah, you didn't really make a point there for why it'd be great in our world, so I can't debate it much, but great comment. And I appreciate you bulking at what I say in terms of, Alloy of Law and all the Mistborn books and all that, so that's cool. So now we got a small debate going on. I'm going to go ahead and skip over from Matthew Stormbless, one of my biggest contributors in the channel, always commenting, always leaving great stuff. Appreciate you. My favorite system is from Roshar. There is so much you can do with it. Like, you can use the power for things like teleportation across long distances. Not only that, but the magic system creates things that would be considered high technology today, such as floating platforms that Navani creates in Words of Radiance. I would like to be a wind runner because it allows you to fly and stick people to walls. Also, being a Knight's Radiant means to speak the oaths. Then he goes over the oaths and ends it with Bridge 4. Bridge 4 forever. So here's my counter. So you have some of the similar points people have made before, but the one thing you bring up is teleportation. Now, scientifically, teleportation is a horrific, awful thing, because you typically are actually dying and recreating yourself, which brings in the whole consciousness debate. Is it really you, or is it just a copy of you? My God, we don't know. I mean, in the Wheel of Time teleportation, they're walking through doorways, so that solves that. I can't remember, are they teleporting or walking through doorways? If they're walking through doorways, I got nothing. But if they're teleporting, there's a very good argument that they are murdering themselves and everyone they're teleporting and going to a new location, which is terrifying. From Victoria Page. I love the grim magic in Theridony, Shadows of Silence, a shorter novella Brennan wrote, but Allomancy immediately made sense to me, and that made it feel so real. Also in Era 2, he was able to play it up for a more modern era, and that was my favorite part of that era. Also thanks for Cos Talk. You're welcome, and I really enjoy doing this. So I'm gonna go directly attack Mistborn Era 2 here with its magic system. And I just want to point out that basically they were able to, yes, everything Waxilium and Wayne did was really cool, but imagine if they were bad guys. If that power set together came in, especially Wayne's, Wayne could pretty much be one of the most effective assassins the history has ever seen. And basically just, the continued argument that elevated people could be very, very dangerous. All right. I don't know why I turned into Batman for that. The Green Ranger, my favorite ranger. Light weaving from Stormlight Archive. I love how Shallan can create the images with her Stormlight that can be used for distractions or for disguises, or for even building theater sets as seen in Oathbringer. Its uses seem limitless. You're not wrong, and it is cool, but for previously stated reasons, I'm gonna have to fight you there a little bit. So we have just quite a few more coming in here, but I think there's a bit of a debate going on, so I might have to jump a couple. From Purdy Boy, I'm actually kind of surprised no one has replied with this yet. I know it's an evil from investiture, and it wouldn't be from the magic I would choose to have myself, but I've always found Humalurgy to be fascinating. What I love about it is it's not merely a transferal of power, but due to it being linked to ruin, some of the original power is lost during transferring the Humalurgic spike. It's just a cool little tidbit that Sanderson didn't need to add. Also, fun fact, Humalurgy is the only form of investiture, I believe, that can be used beyond its shards world, and I think Sanderson, I forgot to hit read more on that, has hinted that it might show up in other worlds in the future. For this reason, I'm really excited to see how Humalurgy evolves and incorporates itself in other worlds. If I had to choose which form of investiture I would want to have, I would probably pick Allomancy, though I would probably get a little carried away with playing with people's emotions. But Humalurgy is one that I find most fascinating. I'm not going to touch why playing with people's emotions is a bad thing. Let's just all agree it's not something that should exist in society and move on. Great comment. I really appreciate it. Dan Sallant. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a bit and say Humalurgy. Humalurgy is a disturbing twist on the concept of magic that I love and thought was actually a bit underutilized in Mistborn, especially in older fantasy. Magic is fun, wondrous, and generally positive in its impact on the world and characters, but Humalurgy is literally caused by brutally murdering people and stealing some essence of their being. You made my case for me. Well, okay, do I need to go to the other side of this? Sure. What does human life actually matter? Like, isn't it worth sacrificing lives to achieve greatness for humanity? Think of the heights we could go to if we constantly kept our smartest and brightest sustained and going, and sacrificed. Okay, I'm going to stop that right there. That was getting way too dark. I'm not going to debate that way. I can't do that. I'm sorry. Roshar is my favorite of all the ones I read so far. What I love about it is that you have a partner that can help you and stop you if you don't make the right decision. You can just do whatever you want. There's somebody keeping you in check, and you are never lonely. Think about it. Teft was saved by his Spren. Good point. But you're assuming, do we know for sure all Spren are going to be good? All Spren are going to be helpful? Because, once again, Shallan's has been not always the most helpful. And I think you're making some assumptions that could be dangerous. That's going to be my best count. I might stop the whole debate thing unless I get some stuff that's really, really great and reaping for debate. So we have a couple responses here. So we have one from Brian Wagner. How's it going, Brian? I think I recognize your name as well. Farrakimi is by far my favorite system in the Sanderson so far. It's a system all about balance and equal power. Want to be good at something, you have to be worse at it for a while. It's a fantastic give and take that makes it one of Cosmere's most versatile and creative magic systems. Sure, you can't use it to fly, soulcast, or get a cool sword like some of the other more fancy Roshar systems, but I think its versatility and internal metal powers more than make up for that. Yeah, that's a really cool idea and a very good defense for Ferakimi being the top. I'm personally rather torn between Ferakimi and Allomancy here. The Game Reaper, definitely recognize your name. I would have to go with Warbreaker magic system. It's one of the most open magic systems to all people. On top of that, can be used to create one of the most powerful weapons in the Cosmere, not to mention all the other potential benefits of having higher, heightened, like immortality, lasting even Vasher. We don't know exactly how much he can do with it yet. Potential for greater growth. I actually hadn't thought about that. Good point. Allomancy, especially if it can be combined with the other metallurgic arts, but even without them, it's so much more different applications. Okay, so really there's a continual theme of just the versatility of Allomancy, making it very attractive here. From someone who actually, that was from Multicolumn Madness 2. Interesting name. I would love to know what that's referencing. From Waxilium, Allomancy would have to be my all-time favorite. Multiple reasons. First is nostalgia. Mistborn's the first time I read. That's a really good. I actually like that. Loyal to your first. And secondly, I just love how it works. Granted, being a Radiant or a Lantrian or even having breaths would be awesome, but there's just so many reasons why Allomancy is great. And in just 3 books, there is so much is introduced and so many possibilities that make it one of the best magic systems ever. I'm not going to disagree with you there, Waxilium. And the final comment from Quicksilver Gravity, I love biochromatic breath the most. Not only is it versatile in its uses, but you can straight up buy it with, while others have to be born with it and their powers or bond the ideal of imagination. Plus, with biometric breath, you can become basically immortal without becoming a cognitive shadow. And if you died, you'd probably have more than enough investor become a cognitive shadow with just like 1 breath. Also, you can awaken an object to sapiens and then have a friend forever. Yeah, good point. And that was our last comment, guys. I need to reread Warbreaker. It's not fresh enough in my head. I hope you guys enjoyed this Cosmere talk. Next one, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, so there's not a question for next week. Look forward to that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and you'd like to see more Cos talk in the future. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.